With the 74th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos selected wide receiver Pat Bryant out of Illinois. And he seems to be the most controversial of all of the Broncos draft picks. But we're going to dive in today. We're going to look at some film. We're going to look at some data, some analytics, and really talk about why I think third round was absolutely not too early for Pat Bryant, regardless of what the consensus board shows. So what's popping, everybody? Hope you guys are all having a good evening, man. My name is Mark with Marcky Sports. And if you love Denver sports, if you love NFL draft content, and if you just love to have a good time, I hope you consider subscribing to the channel, like the video, check some of the other things out. And let's get to it. So Pat Bryant, man, let me tell y'all something. I actually talked about this guy kind of in length on several different videos that I made pre-draft process because he just kept popping off. Someone that I really started to like a lot when I saw the interview with Pat Bryant, and it was with Mike Garafolo and Ian Rappaport at the Senior Bowl. And I was like, this dude just seems like he's a fun-loving guy. He loves football. Let me take a look and check him out and see what he's all about. And listen, man, he's not flashy, but he's just damn good. That's what I saw before the draft. I was like, I don't really know what he's going to necessarily test. I don't think it matters, but he's a very pro-ready NFL prospect, in my opinion, with a pretty high floor. And I felt like the fit with Sean Payton makes a lot of sense, given what is it that we were looking for with him. Now, he's, like I said, he's just somebody that I feel like does a really good job of being able to utilize his big frame, and his contested catch rate is ridiculously good. And then you start to dive into the numbers a little bit more. Let's look at some of the PFF stuff, some of the PFF numbers that I think are relevant. Like I said, it's not the all and be all, right? I mean, he's not necessarily it's not the you don't look at every single PFF number and say, oh, okay, you got to, take everything with a grain of salt, obviously. But here's some things that really stood out to me. First of all, his just flat out receiving grade, especially his receiving grade against man coverage, are amongst the highest that you'll see of anybody in this draft class. Those are easier metrics for companies like PFF who do great work to be able to grade, right? It's a little bit more straightforward. Also, guys, he don't drop the football. I'll tell you guys that. I think he had one drop last year. He's got incredibly reliable hands. And even more impressively, he's got a 69.2% contested catch rate, which I love. And if you look at the kind of offense that they ran in Illinois, he wasn't given a lot of opportunities, or they just didn't run the type of offense where like separation and getting the ball in space was the was kind of like the core of their offense. They ran a lot more conservative plays, ran the ball a lot. A lot of the receivers are running slant routes, dig routes, comebacks, those kinds of things, consistently. So he's not really getting the ball a lot in space. However, I will say his route tree is actually very diverse for somebody that's been playing in college for a while. So here's what you're going to get with Pat Bryant. And this is why I love these kind of prospects a lot more than those prospects that they just tear up the combine and they don't always have like uber production, or they play in a very like vanilla style offense, or an offense that doesn't translate very well at all to the NFL. For example, Oregon, right? Oregon, even with Bo Nix, I knew Bo Nix would be a good fit. And when you're the quarterback, it's a little bit different because you're doing reads and things like that. But like last year, I wasn't overly confident with Troy Franklin as a draft pick, even though we got him in the fourth round, because I felt like he wasn't very polished. He could just kind of out athlete everybody else, get open deep, and he was just more talented than everybody else. The thing about Pat Bryant is he's not more talented or not more athletic than everybody else, but he's learned to be a technician and to find different ways to utilize his leverage, utilize his big frame to be able to make catches, and he catches everything. And he made the most out of his opportunities. So of the 54 catches that he had last year, right, on 78 targets, 29 of these 54, so over half, were 20 plus yards down the field catches. And that's him creating separation. That's him using his body. That's him making crazy adjustments to a lot of really, really poorly thrown balls. Still had 10 touchdowns. He had three game winning touchdowns this past season, 2 the year before, 984 yards, and an 18.2 yards per reception average is very high. So is he a deep threat? No, but he's someone that dominates in the short and the intermediate parts of the field. And that's exactly what I feel like the Broncos were missing. A lot of people that I had spoken with as well had talked about Pat Bryant, kind of being like, oh, we already have that type of player in Devon Vele. let me tell you something about Vele. Vele was a very great surprise for the team last year, being a 7th-round pick. He was a camp darling. He ended up being very productive. And I'm a big fan of Vele, but Vele, in my opinion, he thrives more as being a slot receiver, a big slot, rather than somebody that can win outside. He's not the most polished route runner. He wouldn't really create a lot of separation on a ton of routes. There's a lot of times where he's out there and you can just see he was blanketed. And does that mean he's not going to get better? Of course, I think he's going to get better. But I will say there's a lot of areas of Pat Bryant's route running ability and him as a football player currently that are more advanced than what you get with somebody like a Devon Vele. And then add in the fact that he's got a really nice ability to block, play more of that Z receiver for Sean Payton. He loves it. He's going to come in, and not only is he going to obviously make this team, but he's going to be a contributor right off the bat. I would be shocked if it wasn't him as the week 1 starter opposite of Cortland Sutton, or at least getting a majority of the play time as the wide receiver 2 come week 1 of the season, because he's just really polished, man. That's what I really like about him. Additionally, that you can see, his deep routes, right? He had 22 targets going 20 plus yards down the field. He caught 12 of them for 386 yards, 6 touchdowns, a 99.9 receiving grade. Ridiculous. And then in the medium routes, the 10 to 19 yards, which is, a majority of the NFL is going to be living in the medium, right? In the 10 to 19, obviously the short as well. He caught 62.5% of his passes for 3 touchdowns with a 96.1 grade. And then his short routes caught about 80% of them, 242 and a touchdown. So the thing about Illinois, when you watch their offense, it's not a high flying, like throw the ball deep offense, but they do drive the ball down the intermediate parts of the field pretty consistently. And you can see that because he had essentially as many targets at 20 plus deep as he did, in the medium and in the short as well. But just the grades, incredibly impressive. Like I said, he only had 1 drop. And he's someone that is diverse in his route tree, man. These are all the different, parts of the field that he's run. Obviously, deep center is not a big one. He is a very much an X receiver. Can he play in the slot? Sure. But he's very much that. And when, he's on the left part of the field, which he was mainly lined up on the right, as you can see, wherever he's running, good things were happening. You see his, outside left, he was 2 for 2, 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was only on the left side of the field twice the entire year, ran them deep and caught them both for touchdowns. And then, same on the outside right? He has a good grade outside right in the between the numbers in the short to intermediate range. He was really good, right? 97.7 grade, 11 of 14, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns. A little bit shorter part of the field, right? Between 5 and 10 yards. He was still 13 of 17, 200 yards, a touchdown, and then there was a pick thrown at that point too. But you can see wherever he's lined up on the field, he was able to dominate. He was able to win. And let me tell you guys what's the most impressive part of him. He's someone that last year in the 2023 film, I think it was Respect My Coast on Twitter, so shout out to him, who had put this. He dominated Quinyon Mitchell, who was a first-round draft pick and Super Bowl champion to the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely ate him up on every single route in man coverage, and that's really where he thrives. He's obviously very good in the zone too, but he can beat man coverage. He can beat press man coverage, and he's super savvy. He's not going to win with his speed, but that doesn't really matter much in the NFL because you win on your ability to create separation by using leverage, by having, being a very polished route runner, not making it look the same when you're running, a deep post versus if you're running a go versus running a comeback. He does a really good job at all of that. And what I really was impressed with by him as well is that he's actually very explosive. Like he gets to top speed very quickly. And that's something that I wanted to highlight. Let me just pull up actually some of this because I wasn't planning on showing this because I feel like I've shown it prior, but I'm gonna pull it up because it's a very relevant, a testing number that you get at the combine that I think is very relevant to the modern day NFL. So let's pull up his numbers at the combine, right? Everybody's always talking about 4.61, 40, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. Well, his explosion testing in terms of his broad jump and his vertical are actually very solid. but pay attention to the 10-yard split. That's the most important factor in terms of speed when you're looking at all these different workouts that they put them through. In my opinion, the 10-yard split is the most important for most athletes on the football field, but especially for receivers, because this shows your ability to get to top speed quickly, have some explosion. Once you have a step on somebody, they're pretty much toast, right? The 0.04 milliseconds or whatever is not going to make that big of a difference, is at 156. Now, let's go to the fastest, one of the faster receivers that we have on our team. People are saying he's the fastest in Troy Franklin. This is the reason why I was actually really pessimistic about Troy Franklin as a pro. And I'm hoping that he can take a really big leap from year 1 to year 2, because he is fast. 4.41 is, plenty fast for somebody that's 6'2", 180, probably 85 pounds now, but 4.41 is really good, but he's a long speed guy. It takes him a while to get to 40. Essentially, to 10 yards, Pat Bryant had beaten him by half a second. And then after that, that's when Troy Franklin gets going. And that's his issue with creating separation in the NFL level. Unless he's running a deep ball where he can continuously gain on the DBs down the field, right? You're not gonna be able to touch that. So that's a really impressive number, and you will notice, right, in comparison to this 161, and you'll see a lot of that on the film. You will. He's got it. Like I said, he beats man coverage. He gets to top gear quickly, and he's a long strider, so he's got that ability to be able to get some yak. But I'll tell you what, man, I'm super excited about Pat Bryant. I absolutely do not think he was drafted too early. Let's say we could have, got him in the 4th round. What's the difference really at this point? When you look at the receivers that were available at that time, he's the only one that really was very well-rounded skill set. He didn't do anything particularly phenomenal, but he did all things well. And he's the only one that projected as a true X receiver that didn't need as much development as the other guys, right? Like, I love Alec Ayomanor. I did a whole video on him. I think he's a really good player, but I think he's very raw, and I don't think he's got the best hands, and his contested catches were kind of so-and-so. I think he can become a very good receiver in the NFL, but I felt like Pat Bryant was more polished. But 3-4 years down the road, Alec Ayomanor may ultimately has a chance to ultimately be a better pro. But I like where he went. I thought it was a really smart pick, and I think he fits very well in terms of rounding out this receiver room and what it is that we need, right? You got your gadget guy in Marvin Mims. You've got your true X receiver that can kind of do everything on the outside in Cortland Sutton. You've got Devon Bailey, who really projects similarly to Cortland. I think he thrives in the slot, but he can kind of do some of, a little bit of everything. And then you've got Troy Franklin, who was playing X last year, but he's more your deep ball guy. He's the guy that's going to be able to stretch the field. Pat Bryant is your other outside X receiver that can win in the short and the intermediate game all day, especially with the type of routes that they're having him run. And he can block, so he can stay on the field in the run game. And so I like what he's going to bring, man. I think he's going to tear it up at camp. I think that's when people are really going to start to notice it. So without further ado, guys, let's get into some of the film here. I'm going to let it run. All right. And then we are going to break it down. And shout out to Guru Film Room, man. Check them out. They have the best cut-ups, unlimited amounts of film that you can watch of any prospect that you want to see, really, for any year. So shout out to them for this, but here it is. So top of the screen, absolutely cooks Tommy Hill, the Nebraska corner, wide open for a touchdown. And let's watch it, what happens here, okay? So they're lined up in man, and he fakes the outside leverage, really, really fakes it hard, and just, boom, beats him inside, gets the corner completely turned around. Easy 6. You got to love that. So this one I wanted to put in. It's not like it was anything special with the route running, but the fact that they lined him up in the backfield as a fullback here, right in front of the running back, I just wanted to put that in there because I thought it was, it not only does it show a lot about his skill set, but it shows a lot about what the coaching staff of Illinois thought about him, right? And he was enough of a threat being in the backfield there to get a defense to think that they could run it with him because he's that good of a blocker. But they're able to just sneak him out and get an easy 6 here. So 2 touchdowns versus Nebraska in this game. Gets there, you got to love it. And that versatility is going to pay a lot of dividends in the NFL. There's a deep, deep touchdown. Oh, let me go back to that one. All right, so you're going to actually see him lined up here. Not technically in the slot, but he's going to be the second receiver on the top of the screen. So you see the 3, he's the middle guy. And again, look what he does to the safety, right? Fakes the slant route in, gets him completely turned, and that's a wrap. Once the cornerback has flipped his hips and he's turning back and then he stumbles like that, it is game over. That's what he does consistently. That's how he creates a separation, and that's how he's able to win. And he takes that for 6 easily, no problems there. This one I love a lot too. So we'll break down a lot of what I see in here as you see him take it deep. So going back on this one, I love the comeback. I love the route in general. So he goes up, he really sells that he's going to go deep. Then he stops on a dime and comes all the way back to the quarterback, right? Makes it super easy for him. Says, hey man, I'm wide open. I'm here. Then catches it, puts his foot in the dirt, turns upfield, breaks the tackle, and he's off to the races. And there he goes. He's going to take it all the way down, ends up taking it to the 10. And here's, sorry, let's go back to this one here. And here's another one. He takes it. He does the out route here. Does a good job of putting a move on the corner just to hesitate. The corner does a good job of playing the sideline. You can see he's baiting him to play the sideline because his back. So this is the kind of bottom right of the screen. The cornerback's back is towards the sideline, so he's trying to force him to play the sideline. He fakes it inside, gets him to be a little bit grabby and hesitate for a second. He actually does grab him. I think they called PI on this. And then just makes a sick contested catch that you got to love to see there. So I didn't have too many clips because I didn't want to make this video extra long. But one thing that I noticed with him is that he does a lot of things that translate to the NFL really well and that aren't really necessarily used a lot in college, especially at Illinois. I also love the fact that he's definitely in this NIL world with NCAA. We talked about it a lot. He could have gotten NIL, could have gotten a lot of money, gotten in the transfer portal and gone to a bigger school that throws the ball more and really inflated his numbers. He decided he wanted to stay there. He owed it to a lot of the players, the coaches, especially that had recruited him and given him everything, and obviously his teammates. And, we had Jim Leonard, our secondary coach, was a consultant for Illinois, not last year, but the year prior. And he was familiar with Pat Bryant, and he raved about the kid. He was a freshman at the time. He said this kid, or a sophomore, he said this kid's going to be really good work ethic, leader, very respected in the locker room. I'm excited to see Pat Bryant. I think he might be my favorite pick of all of them. I think he might be the one that I'm looking forward to the most because I truly believe he's going to be the safety blanket, and he's going to be that type of receiver that Bo Nix was really missing last year. And it's going to help the offense as a whole because, now defenses will have to take into account another legitimate threat in the pass game outside of Cortland Sutton. Now they got that with Evan Ingram. So with Evan Ingram here, with Cortland Sutton here, and now with Pat Bryant, those guys are going to be seeing a lot more man coverage, and they are man coverage beaters. That is what they do. They beat single coverage all day. And I'm excited. I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments about Pat Bryant. I don't care if you felt like he was drafted early, right? There was reports that came out that NFL teams were a lot higher on Pat Bryant than the consensus. I understand why, because NFL teams kind of understand what they're looking for in a wide receiver. So whether we got him in the 3rd or the 4th, at this point, it's irrelevant. But let me know what you guys think. And interact with me below. I appreciate y'all. Y'all be sure to spend time with those that you love the most, man. Until the next video, go Broncos and peace out.